I just interviewed MrBeast about his latest tips for growing on YouTube right now with all the recent changes to the platform. So in this video, I'm gonna break down what we talked about on and off stage, as well as what I've learned from 5 years working inside YouTube and interviewing top creators to share the 7 best tips we've used to see a massive jump in this channel. And no, these aren't the obvious and outdated tips we've all heard. It's stuff I'm genuinely shocked more people aren't talking about.
You're very good at what you do.
So the first of the 7 tips is to limit your Lamborghinis, and I'll explain what that means in a second, but it comes from this fascinating moment from my interview with MrBeast, which, by the way, make sure you subscribe because you're not going to want to miss the full video when I drop it. But basically, he showed me all these internal drafts that it took to go from an initial idea to a final thumbnail.
Take me through, what is this that we're looking at here, Jimmy?
These weren't A/B tests. Some of the first ones are kind of terrible, but it just shows all the different ones we went through until we landed on the one we ended up uploading.
Help me roast the earlier versions, like, because I think for you maybe it's intuitive, like how you got from point A to B. Like, what are some of those most obvious changes?
Well, the top middle one, you know, in theory, your gut would be like, having 6 Lamborghinis looks cool.
Yeah.
But then it's like hard to process it and you can't see it. I'm a big fan of simplicity. Just get it across where they instantly understand it. And so, like, to me, one big Lamborghini in the middle, which obviously is what we went with, so much better than like a driveway covered in Lamborghinis, because it's so much harder to process. I like to just make it where your brain could be off and you don't have to think. You get it, click. You know what I mean?
Totally.
In the real world, obviously 6 Lambos are better than 1, but in a YouTube thumbnail, less is more. And one thing I like to try is to see if my thumbnail passes what I like to call the 18% test. So shrink your Photoshop canvas or whatever you're using to design your thumbnail down to 18%, which helps you identify what a viewer will actually see, especially on mobile. And most times you should have 3 elements or less in your thumbnails, just like MrBeast. So that could be a face car castle or face train pit, or a face money safe, just like Jimmy does. And I say this with love because we have a Discord where over 3,500 creators are there giving feedback to each other, and most people share the thumbnails for me to roast. And I want to share 3 examples where if you zoom them down to 18%, you can't see the 3 elements clearly, and there's way too many Lambos stuffed in there. So by looking at it at a smaller scale, you can make better decisions on what to cut, keep, or enlarge. The second tip is to look off YouTube to succeed on YouTube. Now look, I'm not saying you shouldn't study other YouTubers, but if that's all you do and you dismiss content from Hollywood because it's too traditional, then you're losing out on so many ideas that could set you apart. Case in point, I was shocked to learn that actually this thumbnail idea for MrBeast's video was actually sparked from his team watching a scene from an Apple TV show called Severance.
How did this go from a thumbnail idea to final?
One of my thumbnail guys, Chucky, watched Severance, and one of the opening shots is that image in the top middle. He's like, we should do this for a thumbnail. And I was like, what does that even mean? And he sent me that Snapchat with a circle and a human. And I was even more confused, the image in the top right. And I was like, Chucky, I don't know, maybe you're drinking alcohol, even though he doesn't. And somehow that led to this thumbnail we ended up doing here in the bottom right, which actually worked pretty well. And it was kind of nice because usually my thumbnails have my face and the left side. And I've been looking for ways to not have every thumbnail be the exact same. That was a good breakaway that people seem to like. You can draw inspiration from anywhere. It's not like we got that from a different YouTube thumbnail. Like, he was literally just watching Severance.
And ever since hearing that, I've looked at 3 things differently: TV shows, billboards, and movie posters. And in fact, this thumbnail I made is actually from a billboard for the Spy Kids movie. I mean, I'm not even ashamed to say I was driving and I literally made a U-turn, parked, and took a bunch of photos of that billboard to add to my ongoing thumbnail Hall of Fame folder so I could later adapt it. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. On every Hollywood set, there's a director of photography whose entire job is to create a stunning shot that tells a story, just like we saw in Severance, or graphic designers who spend their careers making billboards and posters to catch your attention in a nanosecond while you're speeding on the highways. And this even goes beyond thumbnails. I mean, for actual video formats, think about what creators like Eric are doing. They're really just recreating Big Brother from TV, or the Sidemen's Tinder in real life. That's really just MTV's Next recreated, or even my On the Street videos, which have gotten millions of views. Those are just Tonight Show segments like Jay Leno's Jaywalking recreated. So basically what I'm saying is study traditional media past and present, because there's so much opportunity to apply to YouTube before others catch on. All right, the next tip is, and this one drives me crazy, it's to be smarter about YouTube's new linking feature. Okay, so this is a hot take, but I think nearly everyone is oversimplifying YouTube's recent update, which lets you link your shorts to other videos because there's so much more you can do with it. So here's two ideas, which I like to call the flood method and the short to short method. The flood method means you take every single one of your shorts and have them link to your most recent long form YouTube video, even if it's unrelated. Meaning you flood one long form with your shorts, and then when you put out another long form video, you change all the links on your shorts to flood to that one. And people aren't talking about this, but it's actually what MrBeast has been doing if you pay close attention to the links on all of his shorts. They all go to the same long form video, and it's usually his most recent upload. And then when he uploads a new long form, all those links change. So the second method is the short to short, which is exactly what it sounds like, because most people use this tool, this new linking tool, only to link their short clips to the respective long form that they came from, which is what you see with most podcasts. But what most people don't realize is that you can also link your short to another short, which I would do with every single short on your channel, especially if your shorts are part of a series. For example, I have a series called Creators vs. Celebrities where I ask people who's more famous. And at the end of each video, I tease the next one. So I linked all those shorts together. Now, if you're thinking, John, all my shorts are all unrelated, there's no format, there's no theme. Well, I made a video of how you could create structured experiments to figure out how to make your content much more bingeable and find those formats so YouTube takes your viewers down a rabbit hole. All right. The next tip is to clip before you get clipped. And to explain that, here's a quick story. My hour-long interview with Danny Duncan got 1.9 million views. And a ton of people clipped that into shorts that got their channel 16 million views, 6 million views, 1 million views each. And before YouTube made this update, most people would just say, yeah, okay, that's all right. It's cool. People are taking your long form, they're turning into shorts to bring you exposure. And a lot of that is still true. But with this update, it actually means you may be losing out on a ton of views, because had you clipped your long form before others did, then you could have gotten those views and linked right to your own video. Because the key here is this new feature only lets you link your shorts to your own videos, not to other channels. So even if people clip your content and they want to drive views to you as the source, they can't. So you really have to beat them to it. And now you may be thinking, all right, John, I can barely edit my own long form videos. How do I edit a bunch of shorts too? And that's what I thought. And there's a lot of great AI tools out there. And one that my team loves is Opus Clip, because you can simply enter your long form video link and boom, Opus generates a bunch of clips with your style subtitles, suggested headline, description, and even ranks them with a virality score. So you could prioritize which ones to post. Bottom line, you gotta clip your videos before others clip them for you, because you never know when one of those clips gets 16 million views and you could have brought even a portion of those views back to your channel, which could have been massive. The next tip is to use better music. And for this one, I have to thank our sponsor, Licked, because I know this one sounds simple, but if there's one thing you've probably seen across our channel, it's that we are obsessed with finding the right music and sound. And personally, I love using Licked because it lets you use mainstream music in your videos while being protected from demonetization and copyright strikes. And I'm talking about huge chart-topping tracks from artists like Bruno Mars, Charlie Puth, Oliver Tree, Cardi B, and not to mention, with over 1 million mainstream songs and a full library of stock tracks, your options are basically endless. It's a great way to use trending songs your audience already knows and loves, and it helps your videos just feel that much more familiar to newer audience. Perfect example of this, if you take a look at my clip from my 24 hours with Danny Duncan video that got 2.8 million views, we'll just watch a few seconds of it with no mainstream music. Now watch that same clip with mainstream music. And again, Licked protects against demonetization, so I don't have to worry about it as a creator. I mean, if you're interested or curious, you could check out this link below, and you'll get 14 days of free stock music and 50% off your first mainstream track. Which brings me to the next tip, which is use T-sheets to brainstorm videos. Now, Jimmy talked about how he's hired storyboard artists to draw his ideas out, but I want to talk about how we could do that even if we can't hire or have the budget.
We have a full-time sketch artist. It's like, before I even put an idea on the calendar, we sketch out what the thumbnail will be like. Usually we'll sketch out a couple versions and figure out what the title is. This helps make sure what I'm envisioning isn't just dumb, you know?
Okay, so a much more budget-friendly way to do this is something I learned from my interview with Zach King, who explained this amazingly simple tool called T-Sheets that helped him grow to 20 million subscribers. And I'll let Zach break it down here in a second, but basically it's a way to quickly visualize your ideas and share with others for specific feedback.
It's essentially like picture an 8.5 by 11 paper with a T written across, and then you've got a synopsis on one side and a picture on the other and a title on the top. And that's just to help all kinds of learners. You have people who read, you have people that just, for me, a visual learner, I see like an image and I get the concept a little easier. And then you also come up with like that memorable top line title that is almost like, it's not YouTube title ready, but it's just to give you an essence, and sometimes it's very memorable.
From there, Zach has his team vote on their favorite tee sheets to turn into videos, which makes it so much easier than talking about their ideas and generalities like most people do. And if you don't have a team, don't worry. You can do this with your roommates or family members. The point is, it makes it so much easier to have a concrete ask, which is, hey, what do you think of this specific tee sheet with a headline, sketch, and concept already on there versus what do you think of this ambiguous idea that you send over a text? And that brings me to our last tip, which is to prepare for a potential link apocalypse. Let me explain. Part of YouTube's recent update is the removal of hyperlinks in shorts, right? So no more links to external sites, outside affiliate links, and so forth. Instead, we now have that linking feature in shorts that we discussed. And YouTube is giving you more prominent links on your channel page where you can link up to 14 links, customize the titles, and so forth. And for now, I gotta say, this actually seems like a decent trade for us as creators. But the big question is this. Could this lead to a link apocalypse where YouTube bans external links on long form too? And what's the most extreme case scenario here, and how should we prepare? To answer those questions, we have to talk about good old Elon Musk. Because back in December, he said this, quote, "We will remove accounts that promote other social media platforms and content that contain links or usernames for the following platforms." And he listed out Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, and so forth. Now, he quickly deleted that post after a ton of backlash. But then X, or Twitter's @safety account, put out this poll asking a very similar question. So regardless, the cat was out of the bag. And you know what Elon said is pretty harsh, but it actually makes business sense for platforms like Twitter and YouTube and Instagram to not play nice and to not link to one another. I mean, do you ever wonder why putting a YouTube link in your Instagram stories leads to this crappy mobile web experience opening up instead of bringing you right to YouTube's app? It's the same thinking. I mean, apps don't want to donate traffic to one another. And now Elon's tweets and YouTube's updates are just accelerating this. So if I were you, I would sprint these next few months to diversify your traffic. And that's actually why I've started my own cartoon newsletter a few months ago, because we've all heard this whole thing, you know, rented land versus owned land. And I think now's the time to really take action on it, because there could be a world where you get less links on long form next year. I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying you shouldn't be caught off guard. And of course, there's actually legislation that prevents big platforms from removing all links, so you could rest easy. YouTube is probably going to start prioritize even more traffic within their platform like they're doing with shopping. All right, if you found these tips helpful, it would mean a lot if you subscribe. And I'm actually launching a course called Insider Accelerator, where I'll be taking you under my wing to share even more tools, tips, and templates to build a real business as a creator. So check out the link below. I'll see you next time.